The news that we're gonna present here is a news that speaks about the problem that Colombia has with pedestrians because of the lack of education and other things that will be explained later on in the video. And due to this, approximately one person every 6 hours gets killed by a car accident.
The main causes of this issue is the lack of the civic culture. And this lack of civic culture is regulated by two main aspects. First, the lack of infrastructure, and then the lack of education. On the infrastructure, we can talk about the no zebras and traffic lights in some parts of the city where people don't have the basic tools to respect them. So if they don't have a traffic light or a zebra, they don't know when and where they have to cross the street. Besides, around the city there are very low sidewalks. That means that when a car crashes, there isn't a barrier that can stop the car from trespassing to the pedestrian's sidewalk. So when a car crashes, people can very easily get killed. The other problem is the lack of education. As people don't have the infrastructure to be educated, when they face a real situation, when they have a traffic light and a zebra, they don't have enough education to know where they have to cross and how to use them.
Due to the causes already explained, there are some consequences for the pedestrians here in Colombia, and here's some data to prove it. First, as I already said, every 6 hours a pedestrian gets killed here. During the first 15 days of the year, 172 accidents were recorded, and 27 of the pedestrians involved in these accidents were killed, and 159 got injured. Annually, 1,364 walkers die because of these kind of accidents. 5 out of 10 cases that result in death are involved with the pedestrians in irresponsibility, like related to education. And 3 out of 10 of the casualties within the crash accidents range are pedestrians. Also, like with little kids, you have to be careful with old people, and because they don't have the same abilities that you have to cross the street, so you can help them get through it, because you have to be a good citizen.
To address this problem, we think that the best way we can do it is throughout education. This education, as we know that people won't study at home, we can do it in the streets, throughout social campaigns where people can go to tell the people the 5 tips that we're going to explain later on, or maybe in some advertisements to show those little tips in a very brief description.
The first of these tips is prevention. It involves looking both sides when crossing the street and crossing through the zebra, and taking into account the traffic lights.
The second tip is respect. It is very easy. We only have to respect the traffic light. We can only cross the street when it is on green. In the other cases, we shouldn't be able to respect this law to avoid accidents.
The third tip is don't get distracted. This means that you must avoid things like looking at your phone or using earphones when crossing the street, so you can hear when a car beeps at you.
Okay. And the fourth tip is to be on time. We have to be able to calculate if we are able to cross the street or we can't. If we see that the light is beeping, we know that we don't have enough time to do it, and if we do it, we have to run. So it's better to wait 1, 2, 3 minutes and avoid an accident.
The fifth and last point is responsibility. This means taking care of the people you're walking with if they need your care. Like, for instance, little children, you have to take their hands so they don't get distracted, and because you're responsible of them. So just when someone needs your help them to get through the streets.
Since 2010, the program Hydroelectric Hidroitango started in Medellin, Colombia. Nowadays, the construction of this project have affected ecologically the field and causes displacement of families. Many colleges have been opposed to this project, especially the group Ríos Vivos. In the last 2 weeks, 2 members of the group have been assassinated, coincidentally at the time when the group was making plans for a protest of the inhabitants affected of this project. The main cause of civic audience seen in this news is the civilization lack of empathy in this matter. That is not only affecting hundreds of families but also the environment. Another cause is the dismiss of civic culture in the education of the society to believe in law and be responsible with it. The education fault is also seen in the government incapacity to address the problem of the families close to the hydrotangle and the environmental issue. So, like the big dismiss of civic culture in this case is like the lack of empathy. Well, and the group thinks that it's very important in order to address this problem is to like start educational campaigns in which people, especially teenagers and kids, envelop with the things that happens in our daily life. I think that we are sticked. We're stuck on Facebook and Twitter, but we don't see like really the news. And well, it's the things that's happening in our country, and we have to be very responsible with it. So I think that campaigns with that could help, like that people do not dismiss that six people are getting killed because they are social activists. It's very important to take that into account, and that will help to make a better country.
This news is about the lack of civic culture regarding the garbage crisis in Bogota. They expose the strategies implemented by the major office to control the garbage crisis in Bogota, but also explain the inefficiency of them and the lack of ecological care taking into account this matter. The causes of the garbage crisis in the city mainly consist on two reasons. The first cause of the lack of civic culture around the garbage crisis is the lack of ecological culture throughout the years, because taking care of the environment was never a necessity until this year, and ecological thinking was a primordial thing to save the earth. This reflects directly in the creation of a civic culture about trash, that the lack of it created a negligence around the people regarding the bad usage, recycling, and the bad using of schedule to throw out the trash cans. The second reason is connected to the first one. This is mainly the rules and morals regarding the creation of mechanisms that were in the past clear and useful to be able to solve the garbage crisis before it became one. If there were some mechanisms for the past that work regarding the trash, it wouldn't be an issue now. Due to the inefficiency of the system and the lack of interest of the people, the garbage has been accumulating in the streets of Bogota, putting the health of the inhabitants of the city in risk, and at the same time leading the citizens to blame the system for this problem, when the fault lies not in the town hall but in the citizens themselves, creating a cycle in which the garbage gets accumulated in the streets and people do nothing more than blaming the city for the problems and sit around waiting for the mayor to solve the problem, while the authorities do nothing or too little to tackle this problem present in the Colombian society. This consequence is a result of the lack of presence of civic culture and the few efforts that the government has done in order to solve this problem, leading to the creation of a society to develop an attitude in which they don't care about environment or the hygiene of their streets.
Causes and consequences are in a wheel, one on each side, and it makes a cycle of causes and consequences, one on top and one on bottom, and rotating. And it is important to get that the lack of the creation of mechanisms of civic culture around the garbage generated real-life consequences, such as the garbage accumulation, health issues, and blaming each other between the government and the regular people. But we must understand that the real problem is that people up in the government are exactly the same people that lack civic culture. And a way to improve civic culture will be, in the first place, to create an ecological conscience that is necessary to understand that we must save our planet by not using the trash cans in a bad way. And we are producing a lot of trash and we do not care about it. And in the second, we must stop blaming each other for the garbage crisis between the government and the regular people. And we should start being the example of the good management of these garbages.